Hey, this is Sky. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Go check out my website at skysworld.com for life coaching and mentoring. It's Sunday, bright and early, daily discipline, mind, body, and soul. This is how we get through. I want to do my Sunday study group for warriors. Let's get into it. Let me start at the end and work my way back to the beginning. Usually I do it the other way. I start at the beginning, work my way to the end. I have about 3 or 4 pages. We'll see if we get through 1 or 2. If you're in hell and you lose your faith, does it make it worse or better? That's a good question. So if you're in hell, your life sucks, you're going through the hardest time, life is total hell, we've all been there, you might be there right now. And if you're in hell, down in those fiery pits, suffering, does it make the suffering better or does it make it worse for you to lose your faith? For you to not believe in God? For you to deny a higher power? It's just a good question. You may be stuck on this idea that, well, I wouldn't be in hell if there was a God. Well, is it the best time to deny God when you're in hell? Let's move on to the next one. Here's a question I don't know if I can answer. Some of you biblical scholars might be better at this than me, but I wrote it down because I thought it was an interesting question to philosophize on. Why did Jesus compare himself to the serpent in the Bible? Jesus says, I am like the serpent. Now, it seems like in the Bible, the serpent is the I don't want to call it personification because it's an animal, but it's supposed to be the devil, right? The Garden of Eden, the snake, we've always thought the snake in the Garden of Eden was the devil, right? Seems pretty obvious. Everybody knows that, right? Well, the snake in the Garden of Eden was not the devil, because there was no devil in the Old Testament. That concept, the concept of this evil fallen angel hell-bent on creating anarchy and pain and suffering in the world, all that fantasy of the devil, of some red-horned beast with a pitchfork and demons in this underworld and all that, that's all New Testament stuff, man. There's no philosophy of that kind of stuff in the Old Testament. So the snake in the Garden of Eden wasn't the devil. It couldn't have been. There was no devil. Why would God put a snake in the garden? Why would there be a snake in the Garden of Eden? What did the snake do? The snake didn't bite anybody, didn't kill anybody. All the snake did was offer Eve and Adam, offer them a choice. Gave them the power of choice. You can choose wrong. There was no wrong choices before that. There was no suffering. There was no consequences of a wrong choice before that. So we have to ask, why would God put a snake in the garden? Well, it's basic gardening 101. If you've ever had a garden, you know that a garden with a snake in it is a healthier garden than one with no snake in it. And put it this way, a garden without a snake is going to be a garden that's constantly attacked by rodents. There's a good chance that all your little carrots and cabbage and strawberries and all that stuff is going to be nibbled and ruined by them pesky little rodents. That's stuff you want to feed your family with, but you can't because it's always being eaten by rodents. So a snake, a dangerous snake, which you thought was the devil, this serpent, is actually a necessary evil in life. It's a necessary part of life. But we have to go back to this original question, which I don't understand. Why did Jesus compare himself to the serpent? He wasn't comparing himself to the devil. There's some people out there that have this conspiracy theory that Jesus was the Antichrist. That Jesus wasn't the Son of God, but he was the devil tricking people. The New Testament is a book of the devil. There's people that believe this. But I don't think that's what Jesus meant when he compared himself to the serpent. What do you guys think? Let's move on to the next one. I don't have an answer. You know what a heart check is? When you're on a team, if you're ever in the military, if you've ever been in a gang, you may have had a heart check. If you're ever in a fraternity, and a heart check is to basically see what's beyond your resume. See, we can read your resume, but we want to see how strong you are in the struggle. When shit hits the fan, when the game is playing, not in practice, but when we're 21 points down and it's a fourth quarter, that's when we want to see what kind of heart you have. You're going to give up, walk away, or you're going to fight to the end. Let's talk a little bit about crisis. A crisis is an unplanned and uncontrolled change. So change happens. There's always going to be change. You can't stop people from changing, times from changing, life from changing, your neighborhood from changing. You can't stop it. But we define a crisis as something that's unplanned and uncontrolled. A kind of change in our lives that we didn't count on and we can't control it. And that's basically what a crisis is. So, as we're saying with the heart check from the last topic, how can you handle a crisis? How are you in a crisis? Stop chasing happiness and success. Stop making that the point of your life. All I want is happiness. All I want is success. You pray for it, beg for it, like a slave. Cut that shit out. Put it out of your head. Stop focusing on it. Stop making that your goal. It's a terrible goal. It's a lofty goal. It's a goal you'll never reach. Anybody who tells you that if you chase happiness or success, that that's a good goal to have, that you can reach it, they're a charlatan, they're a hustler. They're a liar. They're trying to take your money. They're trying to sell you something. Now, happiness and success are both byproducts of meaning and purpose. They're squeezed out of meaning and purpose. What you chase is your meaning and your purpose. And what you squeeze out of that, like a washcloth, the last drops that you squeeze out, that's your happiness and your success. You struggle your ass off every single day. When you put your head on your pillow at night, you'll experience a fleeting moment right before you go to sleep of contentment, of you're content. You can say to yourself, you know, this life isn't that bad. This planet doesn't suck that bad. That might be as good as you get. If you could get to a point like that, man, you are doing so much better than 99.99% of most everybody on earth. I don't know who convinced you to chase happiness and success. Chase meaning and purpose. What is success? You don't know what success is. Let's go over this quick. Now, I just said success is a byproduct of meaning and purpose. But what is your meaning and purpose? Well, I don't know you, and I don't know what your destiny is. You could go to a career counselor and take all those tests. I've done it. They're rather expensive. And they might tell you if you're going to be a carpenter or a counselor or whatever you're good at, according to the results of the test. But I'll tell you right here, right now, your meaning and purpose is obedience to the laws of God. What were you created to do? To be obedient to the laws of God. You're on this planet to serve God. You thought you were here to make $1 million and fuck all the hot chicks in the world? That's not it. The devil told you that. Let's stay on this religious theme for a little bit more. Talk about prayer. I've talked about this before, but it's worth going over again because people forget. You don't beg for favors when you pray. Stop that. Stop begging for stuff when you pray. Stop begging for love, begging for money. Stop begging for health. Stop it. Those prayers always go unanswered. You atheists say there's no God. Well, there is no God if you look at God as some sort of lottery. So praying is about giving thanks. It's about gratitude, being grateful. That's what a prayer is. You don't sit there and say, please, Lord, give me $1 million or make sure my Aunt Betty gets over her cancer. That's not a prayer. It's just begging. You're a slave begging. You're no different than those homeless people on the street, just begging. I never give homeless people money. Never. Never, ever. You can say I'm cold-hearted. Fuck you. I was homeless. Were you? I was homeless. I don't give bums money. So the best time to pray is when you're angry. In the moment of rage, before you punch that wall or punch that person, before you want to show the world how strong you are, stop and pray. Humble yourself in front of God. When you're depressed and sad and you're crying and you're feeling weak, that's the perfect time to pray. To give thanks and praise to the Most High. If you can give thanks and praise in the moment of sorrow, in misery, you've reached a level of sainthood. God gives rest to His saints, not His sinners. You want peace of mind? Follow the rules of God. Let's end it off with a good one. This doesn't apply to everybody, but I was thinking about this earlier in the week. There's a lot of people out there who don't like religion. They don't like Christianity specifically, and they find the whole thing rather threatening. When you dive into this conversation with people, and why don't you like religion? Why don't you like it? They talk about the rules. I don't like the rules. Maybe you're a rebel, maybe you just like a certain amount of freedom, but you don't like rules from some imaginary God, from a pope, from a priest. Well, I get it. I don't like rules either. But I realize as I've gotten older, you're going to follow rules whether you like it or not. You're going to follow somebody's rules. You're following society's rules right now. You might be following multiple sets of rules right now. Your boss, society, your wife. You may be following all kinds of rules, telling everybody you don't want to follow rules. And it's funny how I get in these conversations about religion and you get somebody who says they don't want to follow rules and they're really adamant about it. And their life sucks. You'll follow rules of the gang. You'll follow rules of the streets. You'll follow this code, this criminal code, and you follow those rules. No snitching and all these rules, but you won't follow the rules of God. Life is about choice. You're going to follow rules whether you like it or not. Every rebel out there needs to learn that. You're going to follow somebody's fucking rules, whether it's in a prison or out in the streets. You're going to follow rules. You can choose which rules to follow. The rules you choose to follow have everything to do with your success in this world. We'll leave it at this. If you die angry, you go to hell. What sort of eternity do you want? What sort of eternity? What sort of destiny are you preparing for yourself? You make your own bed. You're going to have to lie in it. I suggest you handle all that anger, all that negativity right now while you're alive, because death is not an escape. You won't run from it. You can't outrun demons. They're too fast. All you can do is stand and fight them. You can be stronger than them, but you can't be faster. Food for thought.